Hi there, this is Charlie Leatham from AskCharlieLeatham.com, and today I'm going to share with you my thoughts on good website design and what makes a great website design. I'm going to go through website design challenges, the biggest mistakes I see when we go to make websites and design websites, where you should really start, design considerations, layout considerations, colors, fonts, images, audios and video, and more. Let's start with the challenges. So when someone comes to me and asks me to help them design their website and build their website, the biggest challenge that we're faced with is achieving a balance between the emotional response and practicality of the site. An emotional response is something that triggers a buying response. Now, maybe the term buying isn't correct, but really what we're trying to get people to do when they come to any website really is to do something. So I'm going to just make that do something be a buying response. So the emotional response is once they've read your information, once they've looked at something, you want them then to take action and do something. The practicality is actually getting your website visitors to the point where that emotional response is actually triggered. It would be, I'm not going to say it's going to be rare, but trying to get someone on your home page of the site to take a massive and great action is somewhat of a challenge. Maybe we could break that down into doing little emotional responses until we actually get the desired response from our visitor. When I started putting this presentation together, I asked my community what website design meant to them. And I got a lot of responses. And it was interesting that most of the responses actually focused on single elements. People were coming back saying, well, website design to me means graphic design. It means coding. It means HTML, which is kind of like coding. It meant adding pictures. Overall, good website design is a little or a lot of each of these components. It's how these components all add together to make that website that people come to visit. The biggest mistakes that I see when people actually start out in designing their website is that they don't have any real idea of what that site is going to do for them or their business. Now, this presentation is really focused on using your website for your business, but ultimately everything I'm saying here can be filtered through using a website for personal uses as well. So there's no real idea of what that site's going to do for you. Are you trying to sell something? Are you trying to invoke a response from people? Are you trying to get people to click through and do something else? What is it that site is actually going to do? A website is just another tool in the business's toolkit to drive people to the store, to make more sales, to increase a mailing list. So, what is it you really want your website to do for you? Wanting to do too much, and I didn't put in here too soon, with or without a plan. It's all very good and well to have these really big plans about what you want your website to do, but ultimately, sometimes you need to just step back and say, well, today I want to be able to do this, tomorrow I want to be able to do this next thing, and in 6 months I want to be able to do something else. Trying to get it all done all at once is not only overwhelming, you may find that later on down the track that really that step three that you were going to do isn't really what your target audience is asking you for, and you don't need to do step three and you can move on and do something else. Save yourself a few dollars, save yourself some time, whatever. But it's about knowing what you want to do, when you want to do it, and how much of that you really need to do. Sell, sell, sell. You know, ultimately, our websites are a tool in our toolkit. Um, Ultimately, We want people to take action from visiting our websites, and often that action is to buy something. But really, it's not the first place that people are going to come to and make that buying decision. There's no relationship there. There's no credibility. There's no marketing list that you can go back to and say, hey, did you know that we're doing this? Do you know this is what our business actually is involved with or does? So, people just trying to sell straight out of the gate with their site rather than develop that relationship and that credibility with their target audience. The view that build it and they will come. Now, this comes down to knowing your target audience, understanding what you're really doing within your business, and just expecting people to come along because, well, I'm doing it and obviously people want this, so they're going to come and visit my site. Unfortunately, it rarely happens that way. Too many images on a site, video and audio that auto start. And I know that there's going to be people out there that say, well, video should auto start and audio should auto start. It really comes down to knowing your audience and knowing where your site is going to be viewed as to whether you should be auto starting video and audio. So, I've said this all the way through on that last slide. It all starts with knowing who your target audience is and what you want your website to do for you and your business. Okay, so I call it dealing with internet-related ADD. I don't know about you, but I know I go surfing and I might be looking at 3 or 4 sites altogether because I'll have multiple tabs or multiple windows open. I'll go and look at a website and go, oh, yeah, I'll come back to that. That's too busy, or I don't really have time, or oh, maybe, I don't know. Oh, look at this one. Oh, pretty pictures. Oh, look, dolphins. Ultimately, we have 7 seconds or less to capture our visitors' attention. And in that 7 seconds, we really need to be addressing the why, what, and who. So if you can answer those 3 questions in that 7 seconds or less, you're going to be able to keep people on your site a little bit longer. Here we go. Why am I here? What's in it for me? And who are you? Answer at least these first 2 questions in the first 7 seconds or less. You've got to appeal to your target audience. The first thing many business owners actually have to appreciate is they aren't their target audience, or they aren't necessarily their target audience. We aren't building a website to appeal necessarily to you or yourself. You're building it to appeal to your target audience. You've really got to be able to take yourself out of your shoes and put yourself into your client's seat or your target audience's seat and look at your website through their eyes. What are they seeing? Is it going to appeal to them? Just because we think it's cool does not necessarily mean that your target audience will find it appealing. So the design considerations, things that we really think about when we're first laying out a website. 7 seconds or less, that's all we have to capture attention. We lose 50% of our visitors on each click. Now, I'm not sure where I saw that statistic, but it's a rule of thumb that I do work by, that every time you make someone click a link to take a step or do the next thing or get the next piece of information, you'll lose 50% of your visitors. So if you start with 100 people coming to your homepage and you make them click on something, 50 people will go through to the next page. If you then make them click on something else, 25 people will make it through to the next page. If you make them click on something else from there, 12 people will go. So just remember that every click that you make, you will lose a percentage of those visitors, and that I work on a rule of thumb of 50%. Audio, video, and image file sizes, not the images themselves should be as small as possible. This will aid in loading your website quicker so that you do keep your visitors' attention. And the common navigation elements should be easy to find. I'm going to come back to that one in a minute. But there are certain things on a website that people will always go and look for, or most people will go and look for, and you need to make them easy to find. Hiding them on your site will just annoy your target audience and let them move on to somewhere else that makes it easy for them to work with you. Layout considerations. When you're designing a site and thinking about what you want your site to do for you, think about what is the one thing, the absolute most important thing you want your visitors to do when they visit a page. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I've been to sites where we can click the like button, visit a Facebook page, promote me on Twitter, sign up to my newsletter, and buy this product. Now, that's 5 things. And sometimes you look at it and it's just too much. It's overwhelmed. There are too many things to do. You don't know where to start. But if you focus on the one thing you want your visitors to do when they visit a page and make that the obvious call to action, the obvious thing to do, you're going to have a better engagement with your target audience. Keep it clean and minimal. Too much information equals overwhelm equals lost opportunity. Believe it or not, if you try to give your people too much, or your visitors too much information all at once, they kind of shut down. I don't know if you've sat there and had people trying to give you all of the reasons you should be doing something, and you're sitting there and you just glaze over. You're not listening anymore. Mainly because, well, I do it mainly because it's hard to process. I just can't process it all. I prefer to take in small amounts of information at a time. And be able to process that information and make a decision on what I want to do next. When we design for Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, Safari, and Opera on a PC and a Mac. Now, they're just 5 browsers that are commonly in use across many platforms or across many people. They're not the be all and the end all, but they're the ones that I do tend to check when we design a website, and check them on a PC and a Mac because they do display differently. You can have something in Firefox on a PC that looks brilliant. You go and look at it Firefox on a Mac, and there's a couple of things that just aren't quite right. So we do have to look at it on both, on all the browsers and on the 2 platforms. And now that we've got iDevices as well, iPads, iPods, iPhones, Android browsers, we do need to actually start to bring them into our testing process and make sure that our websites are designed to display on those platforms as well. I'm going to talk a little bit about the use of color on a site because I've seen some great examples, and I've seen some examples that kind of leave you rubbing your eyes because it's all too much. Color is so important. You use color to get people to evoke that response, or invoke that response that you're looking for. Red used on a website stimulates adrenaline and appetite. It invokes passion. So it's really, really good for matchmaking sites, even recipe websites and such, because the appetite and the passion is invoked. Yellow is highly visible, but it does run the risk of overstimulating. So whilst it's a pretty colour, you might want to limit its usage to borders around images, outlining of characters, and splashes of yellow rather than too much yellow on a site. Green, it's fresh and clean, and it's associated with money, technology, and innovation. So if you're building a site that's about making money or saving money or education on money, or you're building a site that is about some of the latest tech stuff that's coming out, consider using green as your base color. Blue invokes trust, intelligence. It's associated with natural elements such as the sea and the sky. So, that's why I believe a lot of banks have got blue in there, the trust and the intelligence. I work with a lot of self-help practitioners, and we do a lot of blue and green mixes because of the way they work and the emotions that they invoke. Purple, wealth, royal, or noble. So it's normally great to use purple for unique offerings or one-off offerings, or when you're trying to get that feeling of prestige in a website. Orange invokes energy and inspiration, forward thinking, and it's also a very corporate color, believe it or not. If you look at a lot of websites, you'll see that well, not a lot. If you look at some of the more corporate websites, you'll see that there's mixes of blue, red, and orange throughout them. Now, did you know that your browser could be colorblind? Most browsers can display 256 browser-safe colors. Now, the browser-safe colors are colors that can be easily shared and replicated, and will replicate the same, will display the same every time they are viewed. Whether you've got a Toshiba running Internet Explorer and an Acer running Firefox side by side, the colors will look basically the same. Not all browsers share the same color palette. There's approximately 216 colors that are shared across all the color palettes. So it's really important that when you're looking at your colors, that you choose web-safe colors to be sure of the result. Now, a color design tip, we use light colors for the background and all large design elements, and we balance those out with warm colors to create a visual emphasis and make particular features stand out. Now, what I mean by that is that you use a light color for your page background and you put text on it in a dark color. If you're trying to bring emphasis to something, you might do a fade to a light color. You might have a really light background with a really bright and bold image or a video image on the page. So just remember to get your contrast right. There's nothing worse than going to a site that has got like a dark blue background and red text on it. It's really hard to read, and in some cases, some people won't be able to see the red text on the blue background because of color blindness and such as well. So some of the color resources that I love to use when we're looking at websites and trying to work out the best colors to use and how to bring them all together are Color Schema Online, ColorSucker. So you can actually upload your image to ColorSucker and it will create a palette for you, a color palette based on an image. That's great if you've got a logo and you aren't quite sure of what shades of color are used in it. It's great if you've got a photo that you want to use as your main photo and you're trying to get the color palette from that main photo so you can use other elements around it to blend in and highlight things. And Color Scheme Designer is just great. You can put in some colors and it'll give you a palette around those colors as well. So layout elements above the fold. Now, if you take a newspaper and you fold a newspaper in half, and if you go down to your local newsagents and have a look, you'll see that it's normally laid out, folded in half with the headline bit face up. We call that section of the newspaper where it's folded in half and you can see the visible part of the paper, the above the fold part. It's the section of the page that appears in the top of the screen in a website. Now, this is a crucial piece of screen real estate. It's the first piece of information that the visitors see and decide that they want to stay on your site. So if we have a look at some of the examples that I found, and I just took screenshots of what appeared on my site in the above the fold section. Sorry, not my site, on my screen in the above the fold section. So this was this beautiful site, absolutely gorgeous site, really well laid out. Well, really well laid out, really clean and crisp. Now we know this is about graphic design. but there's no call to action here, and there's really nothing encouraging me to do anything next. For me to want to do something next, I actually have to scroll the screen down. Now, if you're in the middle of doing something and you're looking for information quickly, this isn't going to engage me. I might want to come back and look at this later, but it's probably too late by then. So, whilst it's a nice site and it's very well designed, it needs to have a little bit more in that above the fold section. Again, this is a pretty site. I kind of like the colors on this, but there's no information about what the site is. Now, maybe people going here actually are familiar with the company already and know what the company does, and maybe this is just a portal site, but I just found this through a Google search. So I went here and went, very pretty colors. But there's no call to action, and there's lots of dead space around the top of the information panel that could be better used to engage with the audience straight away. Now, this is a Woo theme, and I'm really quite particular to Woo themes. I think they do a really nice job. You'll see that there's a small logo at the top on the left-hand side. It identifies the site. It's already getting the branding in there. The navigation at the top makes it easy to move through the site and find information quickly. And in this case, we have a slider right at the top. Now, the slider is the panel that you're seeing, and you can click on the arrows, and it will change the information that's in that one area. I think, in fact, on this one, that slider also rotated automatically. So after a few seconds, the next piece of information is displayed. So it's a good use of a tiny piece of space to engage with the audience and get as much information through as possible without being overwhelming. You'll see that at the bottom of the slide there, it says, I'm not sure if you can read it, but there's a green button. It says click here to take the tour. So with the slides that are there, the individual pieces of information, you can add an individual call to action as well. So good use of space on the top part of the site. What can I say? One of the most popular sites in the world. It's a simplistic, clean design, and there are two obvious call to actions here. The first one is sign up. If you're not already a member, become a member. It will join us. And the second one is, if you are, log in and connect with your people. Very simple. And you'll see that form, the sign up form, really does fit as much as possible in the top part of the screen. Let's talk about the navigation elements, because they're pretty important. There are certain pages that visitors will look for when they come to a site and that Google consider important. What are they? The home page. Give a way to your visitors to get back to the home page or get back to the beginning. Now, if your home, like the first part of your site, is a landing page, I wouldn't necessarily be directing people back to your landing page, but I would be directing them back to the first page that tells them what to do, where to go, yada, yada, yada. The Contact Us page. How can people ask questions? How can people identify who you are? How can they start to engage with you and feel that they're actually dealing with real people and not nameless entities? Now, I know a lot of people hide, or not a lot of people, I know some businesses hide the Contact Us down the bottom and make it really hard for people to actually get in touch with the business. My take on doing business is that you want to be contactable, you want to engage with your target audience, you want them to know that there is someone real behind the screen that they're seeing, so make the Contact Us easy to find. Now, the third one is the privacy policy. How do you manage privacy? How can people be assured that if they contact you through if they contact you through the contact form, you're not going to spam them or give their information to someone else? How trustworthy are you as a business. So the privacy policy is really important. Now, the contact us and the privacy policy are things that Google look for when they're indexing your site to make sure that you are a legitimate business and that you're a trustworthy business. So where do people look for this information? Well, I think we have trained people to look in one of three places. At the top right-hand corner of a site, within the main navigation, because that's the obvious place, and at the bottom of the page. So try and get that information into at least one of those areas, maybe two. So here's an example with the navigation on the top right-hand corner of the site. You'll see that I've got a red circle around it so that we can see it, but we've got the home page, who are we, how do you contact us, and a little bit more information. It's not in the way, but it's always going to be there so people can look at it and get access to it quickly and easily. The bottom left-hand side of the site, in a list format. It's easy. We've got about, pricing, meet the team, contact us. People will tend to look down there and see if they can find ways of contacting you. Who are you? What's your privacy policy? Fonts and font sizes. Let's talk about this because I'm sure you've all been to sites that are hard to read or just overwhelming. Now, there is no one right answer when it comes to fonts and font sizes. Sometimes you're going to have to play a little. Sometimes you're just going to have to see how it lands on your target audience. I do know that studies show that women don't like serif fonts, but men don't seem to mind them. I tend, and maybe this is because I'm a woman, I tend to find serif fonts, so that's fonts that have got the little tags on them, are hard to read and they look really, really closed up. Whereas a non-serif font, which is what this text on this slide is in, looks a little more open and it gives us a bit more white space on the page. Font sizes that are too big can look unprofessional, but they may be easier to read. So you've got to get a real balance between the professional look and making them easy to read. Font sizes that are too small certainly look nice, but when you've got a lot of text on the page, they are hard to read. So you've just got to get that balance and see what appeals to your target audience. There are only certain fonts that are common across PCs and Macs. If you're using a font on your website that is not loaded on the PC that's viewing the site, a substitution is made, and the site may not necessarily display as you want it to. So we use something called WebSafe fonts. And those WebSafe fonts are the ones that you can be mostly, not 100%, but mostly guaranteed that they will be loaded on the target audience's PC and your site will display as you want it to. Now, this is going to change a little with some of the new innovations that are coming with some of the HTML and some of the coding changes. But right now, if you're coding for someone or developing a site, have a think about the fonts and make sure that your site is going to look basically the same across all the platforms. Okay, graphics are great. Not just good, graphics are great, but images are important to your user experience. They certainly appeal to visual people. They break up a page so that if there's not too much text on it. But images themselves are not particularly search engine friendly. A search engine can't read an image. It can also, an image can also slow down your site load time. Now, that's because of the size of the image and it actually has to download to the viewing computer before it can actually be displayed. So if you can do it in text, do it in text and avoid using an image if possible. Search engines can read text, so you get the benefit of the search engine being able to read the text, and the page should load a little quicker. Now, if you do have to use an image to display your text or to display, be sure to use the alt text. Set the alternate text on the image because that will be read by the search engines. So whilst you can get around it to a degree, if you can do it in text, do it in text. Don't avoid images at all costs, but use them sparingly and intelligently on a page. Video and audio. Use them, absolutely use them. But now I've said here no autoplay. I'm talking about websites where you send people to and they may reload your page several times. Now, the reason I say don't autoplay videos and audios is not everyone will be listening to their or watching their PC, sorry, viewing your site, not watching your PC, viewing your site with a set of headphones on and the volume turned down. Sometimes they will be in an office environment and they bring your site up and your video starts playing, it blares out through their speakers and lets everyone know what site they're looking at. And it can be a disruptive influence in their workplace. Now, you're not going to encourage them to come back to your site if that's the case. Sometimes it just blares at them and they're not ready for it. So I would prefer that if you're going to build a site with a video on it, that you don't autoplay it. Make sure there are control buttons on your video and audio. So if people want to go and turn it off and they need to do it quickly, it's easy and it's obvious to them that how they can do that. Optimize your file size and keep them as small as possible. Particularly when you're talking about video files. If you're converting video, it can become a very large file if you get your settings wrong. Now, that's going to affect your load times. So you do need to optimize your video and your audio for delivery through the web or through the internet and keep those file sizes small. If at all possible, use a content delivery network to host and deliver your content. Amazon the S3 would be my favorite platform. It is optimized so that when you load your web page, it says go and get the video from my content delivery network and send that to the visitor's PC to display it. Now, they're optimized to do that really quickly. Sometimes web servers chug a little at doing that, and we've found that using content delivery networks to deliver audio and video, you get a better response because they load a little quicker. Okay, let's talk about getting it online. Ask your target audience for feedback. Do a limited release. Get something up and ready to go. Do a limited release and get your people in your target audience to use and review the site. Get them to tell you what they like and don't like about it and what they're doing on it. If at all possible, do an interactive session and ask them to talk their way through the site and then just listen to what they say. There's just nothing better than sitting there saying to someone, look, could you just go and load up my website and just, when you get there, tell me what you're thinking and what you're thinking you're going to do. The amount of times I've sat there and had someone say, oh, I can't find the submit button. I can't find the submit button. And then they go, oh, there it is. It's that big red button in the middle of the screen. It might be obvious, but maybe it's just too obvious that they're blanking it out. Maybe the way the target audience responds to something like that is to actually not see it at all. So it's really good if you can do a limited release, get your target audience to tell you what they like and don't like about the site, and then make it available for public consumption after you've addressed some of those issues. Test, track, and measure. I love testing, tracking, and measuring. Use analytics from day one. I love Google Analytics. It gives some great feedback, and you can see where people enter the site, how many pages they view, which pages they view, and in what order, and when they leave the site. Review the reports. Don't just get the reports and go, yes, I do analytics. And see what people are actually doing on your site, and then make one change at a time to improve things or try to improve things. If you make too many changes at once, you're not going to know what has had the impact and what has made the improvement, or whether things have got worse or if things have got worse, what was it that made things get worse? So make one change at a time and be ready to make changes based on your client feedback. If you're building this for your target audience and you want it to be user friendly for your target audience, and you get people coming to you saying, you know, we're finding it really hard to find the information on this, and you get 3 or 4 people come to you and say that, have a look at how your site's laying out and see what you can do to improve that, to improve the response from your target audience. Okay, search engine optimization. Ensuring your web pages are optimized for search engines is absolutely paramount. You've got to be able to tell the search engines what your site is about, what the page is about, so that you can get it listed and listed for the right keywords so that your site is found in the search engines when someone's looking for you. But I want you to remember that you're designing for humans, not search engines. So exercise caution and care to ensure that the user experience is top notch. Um, Getting people to the site is one thing, but keeping them is another. So you might have a site that's really well optimized for a search engine, but it's hard to read, it's hard to navigate. All the information is on one page, so it's overwhelming. Sometimes you need to just dial it back a little because it's the balance of getting lots of people to the site and keeping lots of people on the site. So just summarizing what we've been through today, know who you're targeting, know the one thing you want a visitor to do from your site and from your page, use color to evoke or invoke an emotional response. Use audio, video, and images by all means. I encourage it, but use care in how many you use and how big each individual file is. Get your target audience involved in the design process. Remember, you're designing it for them. You're not designing it for you. And test, track, and measure, and then tweak for better results. Well, that brings us to the end of our presentation. I hope it's been helpful for you and I hope you've really enjoyed it. And if you have, please leave your comments below so that others can share in your thoughts as well. Thanks. It's been a pleasure to present with you today. Bye-bye.